A special thank you to the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, and the Governor of Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker, for having us all here today. IDOT's multi-year plan has a direct impact on all communities in Illinois, but especially so in the city of Springfield. Not only does the city receive distribution of funds from the IDOT for transportation improvements, but many state routes and highways run through and around our great city. As the mayor of the city of Springfield, I want to thank IDOT for their commitment for maintaining safe roads in Illinois. I also want to acknowledge our governor, J.B. Pritzker, as he saw the deferred maintenance going on our Illinois roads, and he made it a commitment to improve transportation in this great state. It is with honor that I have the privilege of introducing to you today our governor, J.B. Pritzker, to share with you his and IDOT's commitment and vision that will lead your roads to the future. Governor Pritzker.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to Mayor Busher for your kind introduction and for your great leadership. To the members of the General Assembly who've joined us today, our local leaders, our IDOT Secretary Omar Osman, Illinois AFL-CIO President Tim Dre, and Illinois Railroad Association President Tim Butler, thank you for joining us here to celebrate the monumental progress that we've made towards modernizing our infrastructure and our record-breaking investments in projects up and down the state of Illinois. Back in 2019, I signed our historic bipartisan $45 billion infrastructure program into law. And in the 4 years since, Rebuild Illinois has set in motion a full-scale revitalization of our state's infrastructure. With $12.1 billion already out the door, we've completed renovations on more than 5,300 miles of highway and over 500 bridges, on top of more than 750 additional accessibility and safety improvements. You truly cannot drive, bike, or walk anywhere throughout the Prairie State without seeing and feeling the impact of Rebuild Illinois. But Rebuild Illinois isn't just about roads and bridges. It's also about expanding and upgrading all aspects of our infrastructure, and that includes broadband access and healthcare institutions, universities and community colleges, airports, riverports, state parks, railroads, innovation hubs, and so much more. From Chicago and Rockford to Springfield and Decatur to Carbondale and Metropolis, every region of our state is getting a much-needed upgrade, and there's much more to come. Today, I couldn't be prouder to announce IDOT's new MYP multi-year program, our largest construction program in state history. Over the next 6 years, we're investing over $40 billion to improve all modes of transportation across our great state. And that means better roads and bridges, modernized transit and aviation, and expanded and faster passenger rail service. It even extends to improved river ports, new sewers and water infrastructure, and a huge upgrade to bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. We are dedicating more than $27 billion alone to upgrade another 3,000 miles of roads and 9.85 million square feet of bridges. By the time we're done, 96% of state interstates will have been improved, and that's a stark contrast to the state of our infrastructure when we first passed Rebuild Illinois just 4.5 short years ago. And when it comes to other forms of transportation, we're investing nearly $14 billion into 44 transit, 27 rail, 30 water ports, and 334 airport projects. Rebuild Illinois has increased safety, efficiency, and opportunities for residents all over the state. And over the next few years, we will keep building on that progress with all 102 counties of Illinois included in our MYP. There are too many projects to name today, but each one is anchored in the goal of enhancing the lives of Illinoisans. Here in Springfield, we've hit the ground running with lane expansions, bridge repairs, and resurfacing for sections of US 24, Illinois 97, Illinois 125, and I-55, to name just a few. We're replacing bridges from Banner to Kingston Mines in Peoria and revitalizing the Bloomington Normal public transit system. We're repairing ramps from Decatur to Forsyth, completing ADA improvements from Illinois 121 to US 36 in Decatur, and much more. All across Illinois, we're setting ourselves up for success with the best infrastructure in the nation. I cannot understate the breadth and size of this MYP. On top of touching every mode of transportation, it reaches every corner of the land of Lincoln, all while creating and supporting hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs. At the end of the day, Rebuild Illinois isn't just about infrastructure. It's a comprehensive plan that's rejuvenating neighborhoods that have been underserved for far too long. It's an economic boost, raising property values and providing workers with mobility to seek even better paying jobs. And it's a community-based plan, connecting people with safe, reliable, and accessible transportation to get where they're going. At its core, Rebuild Illinois is about what matters most, and that's our people. And together we are building an Illinois that will outlast all of us, leaving a better and more prosperous future for generations to come. To the members of the General Assembly who are here and those who have not joined us this morning, to the city leaders, the entire Illinois Department of Transportation, and of course all local officials across the state, thank you for making these historic investments come to life. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn it over to the best state transportation secretary in the nation, and that's our Secretary of Transportation, Omar Osman. Omar?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Governor. You are way too kind to me, but we'll talk about that race later on. But good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Illinois Department of Transportation. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your leadership in making another landmark day in Illinois transportation possible. I just wanted to start by acknowledging the storms that rolled through this area just last week. You can still see the damage just down the streets from here. At IDOT, we have a long, long history of helping out in times of crisis. They are part of Sangamon County. Morgan and Hancock counties is still trying to get on their feet. These are our neighborhoods, our hometowns. Our employees take a great pride in where they live and work. We still have crews out assisting these impacted communities, and I know they are committed to doing whatever it takes to get the job done. It is what we do here at IDOT. With that, welcome Mayor Busher, senators, representatives, local officials, partners, stakeholders, and friends. This agency has been my home for more than 34 years now, and the people who work here are very, very special to me. I wanted to take a few moments to acknowledge some of my staff in the crowd. Deputy Secretary Terry Glavin, Deputy Secretary LaMarche, both of them are new, and they are doing fantastic job. Director of Highway, our Chief Engineer, Steve Travi, is here. Director Bieneman, she's the Director of Office of Planning and Programming. And of course, Region 4 Engineer, this is the Region 4 area, Jeff Myers, whose team have helped put this together. Thank you for you and your team. Other regionals, our engineers are here from across the state. You can tell who they are because they are dressed up pretty good today. So, but critical to making this day happen is our Office of Planning and Programming staff. Under the leadership of Director Bieneman. I'm talking about Tracy Sisk, I'm talking about Vanderhoff, Missy Dateman, their entire staff have worked night and day to make this day possible. And my thank you to many, many others, of course. But this multi-year program we are releasing today is perhaps the most significant ever for the Illinois Department of Transportation, showcasing the real strength and impact of Rebuild Illinois. at approximately $41 billion over 6 years. It is the largest multi-year program in our state history. We literally will have projects touching each and every one of the 102 counties in our great state. The program identifies $27 billion to invest in our roads and bridges over the next 6 years, including $4.6 billion for this upcoming fiscal year. What does that mean? That is roughly 10% increase over 6 years if you compare multi-year program to multi-year program, and it does represent 25% increase in FY24 if you compare it to FY23. But that is due in large part to the engineering and planning effort in the early years of capital program is starting to result in more construction activity and work on the street. And for the first time in almost a decade, we are releasing a combined multimodal, multi-year program, which the governor outlined for you. Just as important, the governor's, and this is at the governor's direction, we are continuing to explore new ways to deliver projects more effectively and efficiently. If you recall, last year, IDOT received authority from the governor and the General Assembly to use alternative project delivery on certain projects. You will see in this multi-year program a total of 16 potential, underlying potential, projects anticipated to cost some $475 million. We have identified those projects for the non-traditional delivery method as we go along. As always, though, we will be proceeding with an unwavering commitment to provide equity and build a workforce that reflects the diversity of our great state. It remains and it will be the blueprint for how we rebuild Illinois. Thank you for coming, and with that, it is my privilege to introduce a true champion of infrastructure, Senator Turner. Senator Turner.
Good morning. This is really a beautiful day, a lot of great things that are happening, but we have come through 8 days of, a lot of damage and just, everybody trying to make it through to the next day, to the next day, to the next day. So I do want to thank, as others have, thank Governor Pritzker and IEMA and everybody and IDOT and everybody that has come out to offer assistance to get us through to the other side. But I also want to take a few minutes to just thank the citizens of the city of Springfield because, Springfield's my home, and I will tell you that there's nobody like the people who live in Springfield. There were people that didn't have power that were out helping their neighbors and just really pulling together. And there's really something to be said for that. So, thank you again, everyone, for everything that you've done over these past 8 days. So I think that Governor Pritzker's commitment to our investment in our roads and bridges continues to better the lives of residents across the state, everywhere we go. I had the great honor of standing with Governor Pritzker when he signed the initial infrastructure bill and I have seen firsthand what that has meant, not just throughout the 48th, not just in Springfield, but throughout this state. And it really is, people rely on roads to get from point A to point B. We rely on roads to carry our merchandise, to get to markets and to travel. But there's a lot more that goes into your life when you have a strong infrastructure program. Through this program, we are boosting our local economy. We're creating more jobs, and those are good paying union jobs. It's not just a job, it's a career. It's an intergenerational investment in our communities. And it's ensuring that our roads are safe and reliable for years to come. What has happened with this program is not just a one and done. It continues to build, and as it is called Rebuild Illinois, it continues to build and rebuild and rebuild. And we have seen what that has meant, and it has led to an infrastructure throughout this state that is second to none, and one in which we can be very, very proud. And with that, I would like to introduce my partner in the General Assembly, Representative Sushier.
Thank you, Senator Turner, and to my other elected officials here behind me. I too want to reiterate what inner strength and courage it has taken for the people of my district to get through the storms that just ravaged the area last week. We're still fighting to get back, and it's kind of interesting that we hear the trucks in the background as we do this press conference, because it just makes us all aware of how much we all work together. I look around at the crowd and, you know, I'm very appreciative of our road workers who are out there when it's super hot and everybody wants to stay in the air conditioning, but they're out there working. Our engineers and our planners are doing what they have to do. Our elected officials are working together with all of these different people so that it can be a better community, so that Illinois can be the greatest state in the United States. And I mean that most sincerely. I've been elected for a while and I've seen really hard, bad times when the roads were horrible and nothing was being done to right that wrong. And one of my proudest moments, and I'll never forget it, it was so hot. We were downtown and the governor signed the bill for the roads. And I thought, I actually got to have a pen from, that's the one that I have the pen from. And it has a very special place at my house because it was a very special moment. Probably one of my proudest votes that I've ever taken. So because of that, and all of us working together, we have a much brighter future. We have hope. You know the saying, if you build it, they will come. And that's what's happening. We have huge growth happening in both Springfield and Decatur when it comes to road projects. Things that haven't happened in decades are happening so that people can safely get from one place to another. Businesses are willing to now put down roots and say, we count on you, state of Illinois. We will build bigger businesses here because we know you're pouring the concrete, literally. You're doing what has to be done so that we can operate our businesses. So thank you to everyone involved in this. I have always said a rising tide lifts all boats, and this is exactly what's happening at this moment. My heart goes out to our citizens who are fighting to get back to, some don't even still have power, and trying to deal with these trees. Many of us are dealing with it our own selves, so we kind of have a little taste of what others are going through. So we're going to do everything we can from our side. Thank you, IDOT, for stepping in and helping. And most importantly, thank you for moving forward with this road and bridge, Metro, high-speed rail. The list just goes on. And it's a great day to live in Illinois. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Representative Mike Coffey, who shares Springfield District with me.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here today. I, too, would like to reiterate, the thanks to the governor and the mayor for their hard work in this very trying time. To the residents of Springfield and the surrounding area, it may not look like it at times, but there is a coordinated effort to make sure that this, and those who still don't have power, I want to let you know that your government is working hard on your behalf to make sure that your needs are fulfilled. IDOT's multi-year improvement program is a sensational boost for the 95th district. Almost $300 million will be spent here. In Sangamon County, $280 million, $124 million on I-55, $18 million for resurfacing the bridge and deck work and overlay, $40 million on Business District 55, Illinois 97 and 125, $176 million of additional lanes. The MacArthur Boulevard project will get $28 million. Christian County, approximately $11 million, and Macon County, $41 million. These are great paying union jobs that will circulate money into our economy, make our roads and bridges safer for our citizens, and make it easier to do business in the 95th district. So thank you to all who've made this happen, and we're happy to have the construction jobs here in the 95th district. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Senator McClure.
Thank you, Representative. First of all, thanks to all those who are still working tirelessly to try to restore power and repair some of the damage done by this awful storm. And thanks to all those who've helped in any way. Obviously some people still don't have power, and hopefully they can get their power restored as soon as possible. Anyone who has driven through our state in the last decade knows the dire condition our roads and infrastructure were in. IDOT's infrastructure improvement projects have already had a significant impact on this region of Illinois. And these projects are not just essential to repair and update our state's infrastructure for the safety of all our citizens who travel across our state, they are also essential to make our state a better place to live and work. Some of the current projects in the 54th District include a much-needed resurfacing and new bridge on I-55 in Macoupin County, major work on highways 48 and 29 in Christian County, the rebuilding of a large chunk of Highway 97 between Petersburg and Atterbury, and some significant resurfacing of I-70 in Effingham County. Because of the poor condition of our state's infrastructure, it is going to take a significant amount of time to get us where we need to be. But the last few years have been a great start, and I look forward to continue to see projects that benefit the 54th District over the next few years. And with that, I'm honored to introduce Tim Dre.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Governor, members of the General Assembly, IDOT. You know, this is more than just asphalt. This is more than just new rail. This is more than a runway at an airport. This is about opportunities. We can see all those physical infrastructure improvements, but what we don't really see is the opportunities that this program creates for a diverse workforce with high wages, middle-class wages, health care, and retirement security. That says a whole lot. And I would just want to ask everybody, there's going to be a lot of orange vests out there on the highway in a lot of places. Slow down, be careful. Every one of those workers have a family, a daughter, a son they want to go home to. Please slow down, make sure they're safe, and we will keep building and rebuilding Illinois. Thank you very much, and a shout out to the people who not only who maintain the highways, make sure they're open up every winter, get us to work, get the goods and services moving. Illinois labor supports this program very, very strongly, and thanks again the Governor and the General Assembly for approving such a robust program. Thank you very much. And now I believe the Governor for question and answers. Sure. Governor Pritzker.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to take any questions from members of the media.
The original Rebuild Illinois plan included the gas tax and some other fee increases. Can you explain just how that allows you to continue to have these types of press conferences every year by providing the funding for that?
Well, the multi-year plan comes out every year, so you're going to continue to see IDOT and folks that are here announcing the projects that are in each year's the new version of the multi-year plan. But we're very proud of the work that's being done, that's already been done over the last 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years, and of course the work that's ahead in this 6-year multi-year plan. This is the largest plan ever, and it's a reflection of the fact that we have momentum, that IDOT's done a great job of making the building of these projects more efficient, as well as shorter lives, so they can do more in a shorter amount of time. So very pleased with the work that IDOT has done and the efficiencies that we brought to the process.
Are you on the pace that you'd hope you'd be when you pass Rebuild Illinois?
It's a funny thing you ask about pace, because nobody expected there to be a pandemic. In some ways, early on in the pandemic, it made it easier for work to be done because there were fewer cars on the highways, in that year and a half initial part of, well, it was also the initial part of not only COVID, but of the Rebuild Illinois program. But then, of course, we have the strain on the labor supply in the country right now, which has made it harder to hire. It's been a challenge to find all the engineers that are necessary for these projects. I know most of the labor locals have been running their apprenticeship programs at full speed and full. So a lot of people are getting work who want work. Anybody really who's looking for work and willing to put in a good hard day's work is going to have an opportunity. So at the pace, it's hard to judge with all the things that have happened over the last 3.5 to 4 years that we're on or off pace. But I can tell you that there's an awful lot of work being done everywhere in the state. And I'm sure there are people who'd like to blame me for the orange cones that you see as you're driving along the highway, or maybe that you have to drive a little bit slower so we can keep people safe that are doing the work on the roadways. But at the same time, we're building for the next 50 years of Illinois, of our business, as well as the people of Illinois.
Governor, more audits have released some various agencies that are showing some lack of oversight, particularly IDES and Department of Corrections, being the recent ones. What are you working on to try to shore up those agencies and correct those insufficiencies?
Well, I guess I'd remind you that there are audits done every year, as you know, and every 2 years on each agency. And within each audit, and I've looked at those audits, what you find is there are some audit findings that repeat year after year. Before I was governor, continue on as governor. You know what? A lot of those have to do with mismatches between the law that was passed some years ago and the way business is done today, just in general. We've brought more efficiencies to a process that don't require certain records to be kept, and yet the law still says, well, you got to, provide a record. Well, if you can't provide a record for something that you're not doing because you don't need to anymore, because we've got, computers and other modern conveniences that make it easier. So I wouldn't look at the number or the repetition of some of those so much. We do look to see what are the new ones that get found that we need to address. And then, as you've maybe seen in some of the hearings in the General Assembly, a lot of questions get asked about the old ones, but most especially focused on any new findings. We're addressing them as fast as we can, and I pay attention to that, and our staff in the governor's office works with our agencies to make sure that we're addressing each one of those things.
Governor, I can't believe
Dave.
that this is our first chance to talk to you since the legislator let out. It makes me kind of sad.
I'm sorry, I've had several press conferences you haven't been at, so apologies.
I don't think you've been in Springfield, though.
I might dispute that, but okay, fair enough. Maybe so. Ask away.
There was some talk about the Invest in Kids program and what place that has to have in the budget, and I'm curious, yay and nay, what are the political concerns about that program?
Well, the General Assembly has been considering that program for the last year, in fact, for the last couple of years, and whether it should be extended. I'm willing to work with the program if it gets extended, or to figure out how we would wind down the program if it doesn't get extended. It wasn't in the last budget, as you know, but I know that there are people who are continuing to talk to see if that program will, in fact, continue.
To some extent, though, you're the guy.
Well, I don't make the law. As you know, the members of the General Assembly.
Someone says the governor's on the phone.
Yes.
People take that call.
Sure.
And if you want something to happen, you can, influence them or push them, just like pushing Mike right here. So.
Does he do everything you tell him to do? Is that?
It does seem to me that when you want stuff to happen, you might have some listening ears.
Sure. Remember, and I've talked to all sides on this, and my view is that we ought to be encouraging people who want to go to continue to go to private school to go to private school, people who want to go to public school to go there. I want to make sure that we have proper funding for our public schools in particular, because we haven't had for many years. We're billions of dollars short of where we ought to be in providing funding for people right here in central Illinois, southern Illinois, not to mention, of course, in the Chicago area and northwestern Illinois. And I continue to fight for that. And in fact, I think I've put more money, or at least proposed and gotten passed more money for education, K-12 education, public education, than any governor in our history in terms of an increase in funding. So we're going to continue to work with and listen to the forces on both sides of this. And I don't think nobody's trying to shut anything down. I think that there's a disagreement about how much money ought to go into a program that supports private schools and that provides a 75% tax credit. It's not a deduction, it's a tax credit. People who say, well, actually, it's not costing taxpayers anything. Actually, it's costing taxpayers 75% of the total amount that gets raised. And so that's something that I think some people who are budget conscious are paying attention to as well.
Governor, several people have talked about the storm damage and people still without power as of this morning.
Yes.
We're a week out from this storm, and as of this morning, roughly 3,100 people in Springfield still without power. The city said yesterday they hope to cut that down by 1,000 to 1,000 people still without power by the end of Sunday. Is that acceptable? Should anyone be waiting that long without power?
Well, there are two things to consider, and I certainly would ask the mayor if she has more information to provide to join me. But two things to consider. One is that the numbers of people without power that get reported are reported because people pick up the phone and call. It isn't some automatic reporting method. If someone doesn't have power, it doesn't mean that the city knows that they don't have power or that the local utility knows. And so, as it turns out, people are, as the days have gone on, calling in to say, I don't have power. They have assumed that somebody already knew. So take that into consideration when you're looking at the numbers of people that are reported. The second thing that I'd say is I know that every effort is being made to bring in people from outside the area to assist in putting power back on. I know that our departments in the state have been helping wherever we've been asked to. But with that, I'd turn it over to the mayor if you have other comments.
Thank you, Governor.
You bet.
Yes, what you need to realize is the event of the storm that hit Springfield was a derecho. It's a hurricane on land. So have you ever seen people from a hurricane go more than 7 days without power? You have. That's what we had in Springfield. It's very strange. It had never happened before. And when I had a conference with IEMA, they said, Mayor, your city was in the eye of the storm. That's where we were. So in response to your question, I would wish no one to be without power. But we are doing the best we can, and as the governor stated, we have help in. We have tripled our crews to restore power. And I was asked a question from the media this morning on an interview, and I want to give a shout out to our local labor leaders. I reached out first thing Friday morning to every union the city had that would be affected by these storms, and they all stepped up and said, we will send you as many people as possible. There's some sort of a myth going on out there that labor didn't want to work, and that is not true at all. So as the mayor, I want to set that record straight as well.
We'll go to Jerry for the last question.
So the fiscal year 2023 ended about $700 million ahead of what you planned in May. What kind of cushion does that provide for 2024, or what do you read into that?
Well, it's always good to have a surplus, and that's something that we've done consistently now for 4 years. I would add that much of the surplus that we saw that came in at the end of the year is one-time dollars that were added to our revenues. So that's not something that you can program in year after year to spend money on. You have to, spend one-time dollars on one-time things, at least if you want to continue to balance the budget of our state, which again, I'm very committed to, and we've been doing every year since I took office. So obviously better to have a surplus. In fact, it's the first real, significant surplus that we have had, because we've taken all the surpluses in the previous years and assigned them to those one-time expenditures. This is a kind of an unexpected additional amount of money. We're going to try to apply it to, things like paying down debt, the things that we've been doing, paying down debt, making sure that we're, lowering the number of unpaid bills. It's almost impossible now, I should tell you, for us to provide more money to pay off bills. We're down to paying bills in about 3, 4, 5 days. You would almost argue that that's too fast. We could be earning interest on the money and wouldn't be paying interest on that if you just extended it for a few more days. But meanwhile, I think we should all celebrate the fact that Illinois is in such good fiscal shape in terms of our annual operating budget that we're able to, pay bills on time and faster than ever before.
Thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have. Mike Noble.
I'll take one more.
She asked for your response to the Chicago police investigation into officers impregnating minors.
Well, well, that's quite a
What, at least one
summary that she's given.
migrants.
Yeah, I understand, but she's talking about impregnating minors. I don't know about a situation like that. I know that there are allegations that there are police officers who've had relations with migrants who have been in police precincts. But again, I don't know the truth of it, or I know the allegations have been made. Obviously, it's horrific if people are being taken advantage of, and it's important that we recognize that more and more of the migrants are being removed from police precincts where they've been taking good care of those migrants, but being put into more permanent, or at least more permanent shelter. And in fact, what we're trying to do is make sure that people get rental assistance so that they can go, have a real apartment to live in, especially families. So, it's a terrible thing, and I hope there's a full investigation as fast as possible. And if there is wrongdoing, they ought to be held accountable immediately.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Good job.